All right, for this first question, we'll just start down the line here. Believe you briefly just describe your organization and your position within it. Yeah.
Hello. My name is Joelle Dollard. I'm a senior manager with RGH Chartered Professional Accountants. It's a public firm of accountants.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Poppy. I work with business intelligence quality assurance with the CRA. So my job is largely surrounding risk assessment and compliance with HST tax.
And I am Yvette. I work at a financial institution, Scotiabank. Most of you might know it already. I am a business account manager. I've been there for a little over 5 years now, but specifically in this role, it's less than a year now. Yeah, thank you.
Hi, I'm Abbie. I work at Deloitte as a senior accountant, and Deloitte is one of the leading professional services firms in Canada, where if you've heard of the Big Four accountant, we are number one. Just to toot our own horn a little bit. And so I work in audit and assurance, and specifically audit private. So what that means is I provide audit services to private clients, including like those in energy resources, government and public services, as well as like consumer services. And I'm sure one of the later questions I'll get into more what audit is. But Deloitte in itself, we do everything from audit and assurance to consulting, financial advisory, tax, risk advisory, risk management, as well as consulting, if I haven't said that one. So we do a lot.
Perfect. And we'll just go down the line again for this question as well. Just a little bit like of a background, like how did you end up where you are today, and like how did you get into your accounting finance industry? Yeah.
Well, I started here at the Mount a long time ago. Um, I did the co-op option here. Bruce Densmore got me onto accounting. He got me intro accounting, early mornings, 8:30, distance education. But I did the co-op option here, and I had all my co-op terms with the accounting firms. Um, and then I just went on and got my designation after that.
So I did not intend on being an accountant. After I finished high school, I actually was a ballet dancer for years. And after a lot of injuries and not making very much money, I decided to go back to school. So I came to the Mount. I didn't do the co-op option. I actually did my degree in kind of a condensed way. So I went straight through the summers and did it in about 2.5 years. After that, I went to public accounting and I did 2 years in two different public accounting firms. So the first was mainly working with hedge funds and captive insurance companies in the Cayman Islands. And the second was MNP, which is a more local firm working with small, medium businesses. And then since which I switched to CRA in June. So fairly new to it still.
For me, how I ended up here again, it's a little bit of a journey. When I first came to Canada 5 years ago, I knew I wanted to pursue a career in business, but wasn't sure how that would look like. So I studied here at the Mount. It registered in a diploma in business administration. Later on, I got an entry position with Scotiabank. So, but that really helped me with that entry position. I was really exposed to a lot of things and mainly the area that I wanted to be in, which was business. So when I graduated, I worked towards that goal within my industry that I was already in. So I moved up a little bit, a few different positions that kind of led me to where I am today, the account management for business owners. And then, so when I graduated, I joined in full time, and that's where I am today. Yeah.
So I did not want to become an accountant either. I actually wanted to become an orthodontist and then made a huge pivot to accounting when I realized how much it costs to become an orthodontist and how long it takes. And so I came to the Mount and now I started working on my accounting courses and decided that accounting would be a good fit. I did the co op program, but I actually did 8 months of my co op experience in the special projects coordinator role at like the Mount's business department. So I got a lot of experience doing things that were not accounting and also learned about things that, were a good fit for me and not a good fit for me. And then my last co op placement, I worked at a public accounting firm which then after graduating from the Mount, I started at that public accounting firm in COVID. So I had already completed half of the CPA program because I was without a job. I was at home with nothing to do. So doing the fast track program seemed like the best place, like best way to spend my time over the summer while I was at home doing basically nothing. And so I worked with BDO Canada for 2 years. And then this summer, while studying for the CFE, I got a job at Deloitte and switched there and started at the end of September in my current role. So I'm very new to Deloitte, but I've been in the public accounting scene for about just over 3 years now.
So you're definitely the Abbie I keep hearing about.
I am definitely that.
Amazing. We love to hear it. Nice to meet you. um, so Poppy, you said you were a ballet dancer. Significant change to accounting. What do you like about your field of work and what do you find challenging making that switch?
I would say one of the most challenging things for me is the sitting still all the time. I don't really like sitting still for 8 hours a day, so I find that difficult. But my parents have always run businesses, so I've always kind of had a bit of a background in business and always been interested in the operational side. So I do like seeing how different businesses are operating. In my job, I do get to see a large variety of industries, so I do really like that.
Amazing. Yvette, what do you find most challenging about your field of work, especially being newer to Canada?
I mean, this challenging part, it's actually funny because something that I found challenging when I started this role that I'm doing was because this role that I do a little bit about it, a business account manager. Basically, I do have like a portfolio of business owners that I work with on a day-to-day basis, and just make sure that I understand their goals and help them meet that goal. So what that looked like, we do have an office-based role, but we go out and meet business owners. Building relationship is mainly the part of what I do. So it's really relationship based. So it was really challenging coming out of school, and I wasn't the type of person that really liked networking, which was the biggest part of my role. So with that, but what I did mainly was like challenging myself. The exposure itself just got me. I mean, being able to like get used to doing those networking. And today I could say that it's actually something that I really enjoy doing in my role. So it's a bit funny, but yeah.
You learn to love it, don't you?
Mhm. Yeah.
A lot of our students are hoping to pursue a CPA designation. Joelle, is this something that you would support them in? Do you have any tips on how they can go about this? No.
Sorry, I can't even follow basic instructions. Last time I was here, there wasn't a microphone, so yeah, no, the CPA designation is a very good option. I mean, if you think about it, everything revolves around money, and somebody's got to account for it. Whether you're a not-for-profit, whether you're in government, wherever you're at, it's always during COVID. I worked all the way through COVID. Actually, probably worked the hardest in my life during COVID with all the government programs coming out and trying to inform clients and keep them on top of things and stuff like that. But yeah, no, definitely, it's a good avenue to follow.
And Abbie, you are newer to it. Would you support this decision? Any tips?
Yeah, so I wrote the CP in September and had convocation actually on not this Saturday, but last Saturday. And so going through the program, you're not gonna like it. It's not easy. It is not something for someone who thinks it's the same as university because it really isn't. When you're in the CPA program, like you're developing all your accounting knowledge about like ASPE, IFRS, like audit, tax. But what you're really developing is yourself as a professional because you learn how to manage working a full-time job while actually getting your work done for CPA and getting it in on time and meeting the deadlines as well as working with people. So a part of the CPA program, you do a group project. So you have to learn to work with other people, use tools and resources, leverage them. And when you study for the CFE, you're training to basically run a marathon in the span of like 8 weeks. And then you write an exam that's 3 days long. And this is not to scare you all, but it's to tell you that when you're done the program, you're considered one of like a superior qualified individual and the world's your oyster. Like once you get those 3 letters behind your name, everyone comes running to you, and there's job opportunities, there's networking opportunities, there's opportunities to do things like I am today, sitting on a panel and sharing with you about the program. So as much as like you'll hear about it, especially if you work in public accounting your first day, they'll be like, okay, so when are you starting the CPA program? Are you in core 1 or core 2? And then you start to hear about the program. As much as there's bad things that are said about the program, it is one of the best educational pursuits you can do. And at the end of it, you'll be very glad that you did do it. You'll be very proud of yourself because it is a big accomplishment. So I highly suggest that people do it.
Lots of encouragement from the team here. Um, you all work in very different, well, I wouldn't say very different. I don't really know the financial world, but you work in different companies. What's a typical career path look like in your organization? From sort of all of you, I would like to hear, just because they are all different. Yeah, we can start with you.
Um, well, if you go through public practice to get your CPA designation, I mean, it's pretty straightforward. You start off as a student, working your way through, doing your courses, and at the end of 2 years, you write the exam, and you need 30 months to get your designation. I mean, you start off as a junior on a job, working your way up through as a senior on a job, and learning, like Abbie said, learning as you go. I mean, one thing I want to say is it is a tough program, but it's short-term pain for long-term gain. It's really not that big in the grand scheme of things. It's 2 years basically of intense, but when you're applying, when you're actually applying what you're doing every day at your job and learning about it at school, it really helps reinforce the concepts and things like that. So
Yeah, Poppy.
So kind of similar, we do have a path that goes through the CPA program. I did my CPA through public accounting as well. So very similar, graduated in 2020 and did it fairly quick. I wrote September 2021. I kind of just wanted to get it over with, sort of heard all of these things and just wanted to get through all of the work. Career path with the CRA is very open. I spoke to several people about this week because I've been trying to figure out what is a typical career path, and basically the answer is there isn't one. So you can do similar to a public accounting, go through audit. Ours is a little different. It's not called like an accountant senior. There's just different job titles, but it's the same idea that it gets more complex as the work goes. From there, you can either move into different fields. So we have a lot of different industries as opposed to the public accounting audit. So we have a lot of different analytics, compliance, setting up different programs, or being on the backside and doing the auditing work for it. And then after about AAU 3 is what our level is called. So I'm an AU 1 right now, and I expect to be an AU 3 in probably 3 years. From there, you can kind of choose to go on and do a leadership role. So you can be a team lead, manager, or you can go work with the executive committee for the CRA, who is more influential in making the tax rules.
Yeah, for me, I mean, my answer could be a little bit different from everybody else just because of the financing industry. It's a really wide industry that there's a lot of I would say career path. It's really hard to tell like somebody for a right career path to take because I know that everybody in this room do have different aspirations to what you want to be. But one thing that I can mention, coming in into a financial industry, be open because the role that you're gonna start in, you don't have to be stuck in that role. The good thing about my industry, they work with you, management team work with you to just make sure that you are in a position that you want to be in. If this one is not working, you're free to move it into the next one and just keep exploring till you find your spot. The other thing that I might mention about, I mean, Scotiabank or any other financial industry, I know for Scotiabank, we do have a program which is called the Accelerate program, which actually helps like new graduates kind of find their spot. So they work with you with different areas of the financial industry, and at the end of the term, then they could probably have a meeting with you just to see what worked for you, what didn't work, and that helps you really be in the best position. But I'd say be very open. There's not a typical career path that I probably would advise in the financial industry, but wherever you are, don't feel like you are stuck in that role. You're free to move. You're free to explore new areas, and you can have a lot of fun with that. Yeah.
So I'm not the typical career path. So I wouldn't like, typically in public accounting, you do a co-op and then you become like an A1 and A2. You move up to the role that I'm in, which is senior. Then you can go like assistant manager, manager, that sort of thing. But I, started my CPA studies and then brought them to a halt and took a year and a half off from the program and then dove back in and wrote the CFE. And while I was writing the CFE, I changed jobs. So that's all to say, like, I don't believe that there's a typical career path for accounting. The place you start on day one thinking, I'm an A1 at Deloitte, I'm going to be here forever. That's what we hope, that you will be with us forever. And we'll do everything to make sure that you can stay with us, including like there's people that I wrote the CP with that are now working in financial advisory instead of audit and assurance. Or if you wanted to move to consulting, you can. And we make those opportunities available for you. So I wouldn't say there's a typical path anymore for accounting students, because once you get those initial 30 months of work experience, whether you choose to do it in accounting or you choose to do it in tax or you choose to do it in like the performance management route, a lot of people decide that there's something else out there for them. So I would say like where you're going to start is not where you're going to end up. And, at Deloitte, we hope you stay with us, but, we support you in making a career shift, whether it's to a different service line or a completely different role that requires you to go back to school.
Yeah, thank you guys. I feel like I have to ask a typical question just because it's been the topic of conversation for the past 3 years. But how has the pandemic and COVID changed your roles? We'll start with you, Poppy.
I don't really have a lot to say because I actually started in accounting during the pandemic. So I graduated 2020. Some of the main differences is we are still working from home. So I go back to the office next month and we're going back 40%. So I'll be in 2 days a week, but that's all we're going back for right now because of space. But I don't really know how it's changed my role significantly.
Fair. Joelle, maybe you've been in the position a little bit longer and can speak to it a little bit better.
Well, during COVID, gave me an opportunity to work from home, as with everybody, and I enjoyed it. And I was working 100% from home. I just recently switched accounting firms in January, so now I'm back in the office full time, and I'm loving it. But when COVID happened, I really felt bad for the CPA students that started at that time, because I mean, to go in and start a new job, but then to do everything virtually and be trained virtually. Now we used Microsoft Teams, which is a very effective tool. I mean, anybody had a question, we could have a meeting. I could bring up the working papers. We could discuss it. I mean, it felt like I was right there face to face with them. But sometimes you need to read body language too, which you can't always read off of Microsoft Teams or Zoom calls or whatnot. But I was still able to do 100% of my role, working 100% at at home. It didn't impact me, although like I said, I did feel bad for the co-op students because I think they had a harder transition. You know, when you're in a bullpen working with your peers who've been there 1 or 2 years ahead of you, and you have a question, it's really easy just to look over your shoulder, say, "Can you help me?" versus you're sitting at home and working by yourself. So I'm glad that hopefully COVID's done and people are back at the office. So
So how does your organization then therefore support the like healthy work-life balance if you are all from, I mean, you are home from home, which is like most people find
yes, I
comfortable,
was
yes.
working from home at the new firm. I'm 100% in the office now, but I mean, it was hard during COVID. To even get teams to feel like you're connected because we never did much socializing. We didn't do many team building things, but now hopefully that's behind us and we can get back to that, our normal, our new normal, which is hopefully a lot like our old normal life.
And Abbie, I know Deloitte's a huge company globally. How do you guys promote your healthy work-life balance?
So my favorite thing is we have something called Deloitte days. So if I was to ask you how many paid days off you think I get a year, what would be your guess? Anyone have an estimate? So I get a total of 39 to 44 paid days off a year. And because I live in Nova Scotia, I think I get 42 paid days off a year. And that's done possible by we have 15 to 20 earned vacation days. We have 3 wellness days, as well as 11 statutory holidays. And on top of that, we get 10 Deloitte days. So Wellness, like for me, I love to take a day off to, especially if you're like finishing off an audit, you've been working really hard to get to the finish line, you just need a day to rest. And I have wellness days to take whenever I want, no questions asked if I need a break. And then we have Deloitte days. So, for example, in April, I have a 4-day weekend because we have a Deloitte day and then a statutory holiday. So that's like number one, how we promote wellness is giving employees the time to take a break from work. And also we have this, it's called a right to disconnect from work policy. So when you're on vacation, you're on vacation. You're not working. You're not carrying around your cell phone answering emails if you're like on a beach down in Mexico. Like you're taking your vacation and enjoying your vacation. So that's like number one up there is time off. And then the other thing we have, and this is something that was new when I joined Deloitte, is we have something called My Benefit Dollars. And it's a part of your benefit package when you join Deloitte. And you get to choose a number of different ways to use these dollars. They can be used as a healthcare spending account. So they can go towards like paying for if let's say for example you need to get like a knee brace because you had an injury, that can pay for that. If you want to use it to pay for your health and dental premiums, it can be used for that. But we have this really cool thing called a personal spending account, and you can use those funds to purchase things like a mattress, an Apple Watch, if you wanted to pay for your gym membership that way. And it's just another way that we like promote you to be able to access wellness, whatever that may be for you, because we don't categorize wellness as for one person it's days off, like, and because for one person it's that way for everyone. Like we make it available in a couple of different ways.
I would think you just sold Deloitte for a lot of students here. What does it look like for the CRA?
So I also have a similar vacation. We don't have the Deloitte days, but I work a condensed schedule. So I know I've been in public accounting and we did a lot of overtime hours. So we don't do that with the CRA. You're actually paid for overtime at time and a half, which is nice. So with my condensed schedule, I actually get every other Friday off. So I only work one Friday every 2 weeks. But you're free to set up your schedule however you want. So we only work 37 and a half hours a week, which is quite nice and not necessarily what everyone gets to do. So I work with some people who take one day off every 2 weeks, 2 days off every 4 weeks, half days every week. It's kind of up to you. We kind of similar policies. No one will contact you outside of work hours, but ours is a little more enforced. And I think it's partly because of the security of our job. We're not allowed to have work emails on our phone. We don't take work calls on our phone. No one contacts you outside of your hours that you're working. We get personal days, vacation, I guess all of the federal stat holidays as well as provincial. Um, I get 3 weeks worth of vacation. It does increase, but 3 weeks is kind of our starting standard.
Amazing. And for Scotiabank.
I mean, it's for most organization, I feel like work-life balance right now is really key. And we get pretty much the same thing as Sim already mentioned. We do have really sufficient vacation days and personal days. I can never get to exhaust them in a year. So you're pretty much flexible to take them at any time, especially with that kind of role that we do. If you need to relax in a span of 2 weeks, you can take that long weekend. Most of us do take long weekends all the, well, not all the time, but most of the time. Sufficient, yeah, certainly. And on top of that, we do have what we call similar to what Abby said. It's called Flex Money, which you can use to literally anything, your well-being, gym membership, massage, all of that type of thing that can certainly help you with your mental health. And the other thing that we actually newly implemented was because we are full-time in the office, implemented at least 2 days a quarter to work from home, but that how that looks is basically you're not doing any work type of thing. You're only doing your personal development. So that really helps you relax. It's still considered as a work day, but you're not actually doing the actual work. So lots of things in store just to make sure that does that work-life balance. Yeah.
Thank you. We're gonna switch it up a little bit. What particular skills and like attitudes and attributes are you looking kind of make the perfect candidate to be in an accounting position or a finance position? Joelle, we'll start with you.
One thing I think you need to have is good time management skills. Juggling, working a full-time job and doing your CPA courses along the way. You have to be able to juggle and even when you're doing your job as a CPA student, you could have, in my firm, which is a smaller firm, you could have multiple jobs on the go at the same time. So you got to be able to figure out how to keep track of everything and when you should be working on something or put something down, things like that. So I think time management is a huge attribute. The other thing I think is important too is whatever job you start accounting or wherever you go, you have to have confidence in yourself and ask questions when you don't know the answer. And you ever heard that saying, there's no such thing as a stupid question? That's so true. Like I find students come in, they're so nervous to ask questions. I want them. We were all where you were, me, a longer time ago than these guys, but at one point in our career we were where you're sitting today. So I always encourage questions. Even in accounting, it's important to understand why you're doing something. If we're doing a certain kind of test, if we're doing a certain kind of procedure, if we're doing a certain type of analysis, it's always important to understand why you're doing it, because if you don't understand why you're doing it, you might totally go off the rails and not do the right thing. So I always encourage questions. So to have enough confidence that you can go and ask a question when you don't know or understand something is important too.
I would say kind of similar, a willingness to learn and also some critical thinking. So having the thought process to know why you're asking what you're asking, what exactly you need to know, what you need help with, what you can figure out on your own. But just being willing to learn new things is pretty much the golden standard.
Just to not be repetitive, all of these things that they said are really handy to what we need in the finance industry. But something that I could probably put an emphasis on is communication. You have to have good communication, especially with the type of role that I do. Like I mentioned, it's mainly meeting with customers, being able to understand them, listen to them. So articulate like and being professional. So basically communication, and I know it's something that one can work on. I worked on it for a while. But yeah, if you can work on your communication, be open, like they say, be free to ask questions. That's gonna help you move along the way, and certainly something that even recruiters are looking for. But the other skills are just the general ones, detail oriented, teamwork, of course. But yeah, for me, I would certainly say communication. Thank you.
I think everyone's really covered most of the skills. I've been sitting here trying to think of another skill. But what I'd say, just from my experience, is show that you're well-rounded. So you're here at university. Yes, it's great to get good grades and it's great to go to school, but try some things out, like join the Business and Tourism Society or get involved with some of the, like Care to Stay is something that was around when I was a student that you could help with SED40 or helping out with the Learners and Leaders Conference, because those are really great concrete activities that are already established where you can go help out and develop these skills like communication, critical thinking, problem solving, teamwork, leadership. And then when you put it on your resume, it's something recognizable. So if your resume came into Deloitte and someone was like, "Hey, Abbie, we have this Mount student that said they help at the Learners and Leaders Conference." What is the Learners and Leaders Conference? So just getting involved with some of those things just to show that you're a well-rounded student and you've taken some risks and tried out some new things while you've been here.
Would you do anything differently looking back on how you got to where you are?
That's a really that's a big question. I would say like something for me, and Poppy will probably also speak to this, is being a graduate from COVID, there was a lot of limitations that we faced and a lot of roadblocks. So the job I secured coming out of university was the job I went into because people weren't hiring. Like you couldn't get another job. And the work I worked on while I was in that job was the work I worked on because there was so much work to do because of COVID. And so I would say like our experiences, because Poppy also started in public accounting during COVID, it's not the norm. In the 2 years I worked at BDO, I've never worked so many hours in my life. And it's because of COVID. There was just so much work that had to be done. So as much as like, maybe there was something I could go back and change, just the limitations we face with the pandemic, I would say everything I've done so far, I would do it again. The fast track program, working in public accounting, I can never say like enough about, doesn't have to be where you end your career, but definitely try it. And other than that, like, I don't think there's anything I would change at all.
Poppy, do you want to bounce off that one?
It was an interesting start. I also worked for BDO, but BDO Cayman Islands. So we were kind of separate companies doing completely different things. My first year in public accounting was very stressful. Besides the fact I also worked remotely with people in different countries. So there was a lot of time zone issues, language barriers. It was a bit complicated. And I am not currently in public accounting. I knew it wasn't my forever career path and not what I wanted. However, kind of similar, I had a great experience. I met wonderful people through public accounting, and I really do think it helped me through my CPA. Just the experience, the knowledge, it all was really what got me through it. So I wouldn't change it. I might have gone to the second company a little sooner, but that's the only change.
Yvette, is there anything different that you would have done differently?
Yeah, but this could be personal. But for me, I mean, everything else, it was certainly learning. But something maybe that I could have changed when I graduated with a diploma in business administration. I mean, what I planned was to actually jump in and finish the whole degree. But juggling the career, I ended up leaning more on the career side of things. So now I just have to take two at a time. I am just trying to finish a degree and working full time. So it's a struggle right now. So if I would have done something different, probably finish my degree and then do the rest. But again, all of it is learning and trying to work with that. But yeah.
Well, same question.
No.
You're happy with your path and where it's gotten you? You're happy with your path and where it's gotten you?
Yes, it's been a long road. I did switch I've been in public practice for over 25 years. I had co-op terms there. I worked with WBLI that turned into MNP for over 21 years, and I just jumped to a very small firm where I'm happy now. I want to be at a smaller firm, so it was a nice move.
We love to hear it. You probably have a good answer for this one. How have you seen technology change the accounting and finance firm? And how do you think it is going to change it?
Well, we're a long way from the green paper. Only a few of us know know what I'm talking about. But I mean, just with the COVID and things like that, and people working remotely, there's been huge changes. There's even more. I mean, there's more computer automation going on in auditing than I've ever seen before. I'm not overly familiar with it. A lot of my audits are small. I don't need to rely on them, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of changes in technology. I mean, I mean, back in the days, I don't know how they did it with the paper and the green paper and the pencils and made an adjustment. I have no idea. Thank God we're out of that. But yeah, it's been a lot of changes, but for the good.
For the good. Amazing. Have the other three of you, have you seen any changes in how technology has impacted your career, how you do it, how you do your day to day?
Yeah, I could probably go.
Yeah.
Especially especially for my type of industry, finance, like technology really came in handy for us. Because I would say probably something that used to take us like days to accomplish, like processes would take forever to close. It's now taking like just minutes. So, and we're still at it. We're still working to improve it. So 5 years from now, I can only see it get better and better. Maybe not so for our senior customers. They still like the paper, but we're trying to get everybody there. But on the overall side of things, it's really something that came in handy for our industry. Yeah.
So because the processes are faster, what does your sort of like day to day life look like?
My day-to-day life. Okay. Do you guys want to hear about it?
Within the
So-
finance sector.
In the finance sector, maybe let me just talk probably about my role. I mean, For me, it depends on the day, what I want to do for that day. If I want to do it in the office or I just want to go out and meet people and just work on the field, meet my customers or even meet new customers, right? But on a day-to-day basis, the first thing we do is just opening our emails. If we have probably deals that we're working on, we just want to make sure that we're following up closely to know where that process is at, what do we need, how can we make that faster to close that. The second thing is, again, still on the email, making sure that customers' problems are handled in a timely manner. For business owners, it's a bit different because most of them is if there's anything going on, they feel like it's right. It's the end of the world because every second they're losing money. So you have to be on top of your communication with them and making sure that you're getting back to them in a timely manner. And after that is basically checking my agenda, meeting like doing my meetings for the day and again, kind of the same process. But if I'm working outside, then it's different. Maybe we don't need technology outside. But yeah, that's typically what happens. It's not really repetitive or routine. It changes depending on what I decide to do on the day. Yeah. Thank you. Not sure
It's
if
a
I answered
no,
that.
it's always good to know, I think, for prospective students to see kind of like what
Yeah.
they're going to get into day to day. Um, I know it's helpful for me. I'm not going into accounting, but just even knowing like what my potential future could look like. Um, so what does a potential future or day-to-day life look like in accounting from one of the accountants here?
Um, Accounting is really a puzzle when you think about it. Putting together a set of financial statements that could be done in lots of different ways. So one thing I like about where I work in public practice is you get to look at lots of different businesses, accounting, the bookkeeping put together from lots of different people who are very good at it, not so good at it. So it's very challenging. Offers lots of different challenges. So one thing I really like is the variety. So you're working with a number of different clients in a number of different industries. The records are brought in a number of different ways. So it makes it very interesting. So when I came back and taught intro accounting, I used to explain that accounting was a puzzle. People thought it was funny, but it's true. It's a puzzle. You're putting together the financial information for people, for management to look at. So that's one thing that I really, really enjoy about my job.
Poppy or Abby?
So mine's very similar to Joelle in that I do see a lot of different industries come through, and it is kind of like trying to put the puzzle together, but my side also is trying to see if their puzzle is reasonable. So if what they submitted actually makes sense, if it is in line with what I would expect for the industry. So my job, I look at several files throughout the run of a day, but I also do quite a lot of research. So sometimes it's industry specific research to see what's happening within that industry in the last couple of years. And sometimes it's more research on the tax side of things to see what rulings have happened in the past, what cases have come through, and what they've decided in the end. And I really like the research side of it. So that's kind of my day.
I'd say I've lived quite an exciting life since I've joined Deloitte. I've been to Toronto twice and Newfoundland also twice, and I actually just got home from spending 4.5 weeks in Newfoundland. So one of the things about Deloitte is being a large firm, there's large opportunities and we have large clients. So for the past, ever since I like day one starting at Deloitte, I've worked solely with one client and it's our largest audit private client in Atlantic Canada. And that's why I ended up going up to Newfoundland as much as I did. But it's really good, I find, because you're not just sitting at home alone. You're communicating with people in Ottawa. You're talking to people in Newfoundland. One of my friends that works out of the office talks with people in Bangladesh to do his job, and part of my role, I communicate with someone in the UK. So you get to meet a lot of people, and there's opportunities to go a lot of different places. So if you're someone that loves to travel, like it's a great opportunity to get to go places and see different places and meet different people. And so, like day to day, I audit, but about probably 20% of my job is not auditing. It's meeting with the client, it's traveling to visit clients. There's a portion where you go to what's called Deloitte University to get leadership, communication, as well as like role specific training. And that's in Toronto. So I would say, like, there's no typical day in audit and Deloitte. Every single day is different. Like this morning, I was on a call with a manager, and then I'm on a call with partner, and then IT is fixing my computer. So like it's just every day's different, which, helps to make things exciting.
We have a lot of good different variation here, and I like to see it, like to hear it. Um, what's something that you can like a practical, tangible piece of advice that you could give these students going into the fields? What what's some advice entering the workforce?
You're not expected to know everything from the beginning. When you start out, I know for myself, and partly because we started like from home, hybrid, there were a lot of questions, and I felt like I was really behind. You're not. You'll figure it out eventually, and everyone kind of starts in the same place. So ask questions. Don't think less of yourself for not knowing all of the answers. You'll get there.
Okay, go second. I mean, for me, one thing that I can tell you is be very open mind. Do not limit yourself. And the other thing that helped me that I could probably tell anybody is seek to improve yourself daily. Maybe not even probably daily, but monthly. And that how that looks like is seek feedback. If you have management team, seek feedback, see where you can improve. And also if there's a typical role that you want to be in, you could feel free to reach out people, network to people who are already in that position, because that's mainly what got me here. They can certainly tell you on things that you can work on even from the beginning stage that's going to make you way smoother than just trying to figure out yourself. So certainly communicate, network with people, seek feedback, and always be open-minded. There's a lot of things that lots of opportunities out here. You just have to see it. Thank you.
I'd say just show up. When you first start your career, it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows. Like Poppy said, you're not going to know anything. Like everything you're taught here over the 4 years you do your degree, like remember it, but also toss it out the window because it's not the same when you get into a workplace. Like you're going to see different things with clients and you're going to be like, but that's not exactly how Aspie says that. And you're gonna have to go digging to figure things out. So I just say, like, show up to work, do your best, be open-minded to new opportunities. The place you start is the place you don't need to finish, and as well as try new things. So, you can go out of university thinking, I would like to become an auditor. But then you start working in, like, let's say a public accounting firm, or you work for the government, or you work for like private industry, and you learn of someone, for example, that's working in consulting, and you're like, oh my gosh, I think that's like really exciting. I want to give that a try. Speak up, go try it, try new things, because the worst thing that's going to happen is you're going to end up back up in the role that you were in before, or maybe in the same role at a different company. And so show up, try new things, be open-minded, and really just put your best foot forward.
You have anything to add, Joelle?
The only thing I can add is a piece of advice that I have 3 children that their primary teacher told them: try your best and forget the rest. That's all you can do. That is a good motto to live by. So, and everything that these ladies said, I totally agree with. The big thing is the questions. I've trained a lot of students over the years, and like I said, I want you to ask questions. If you knew what you were doing, you wouldn't have to go through the CPA program to get to the final, right? There's a process there, so don't be afraid to ask questions, for sure.
I have one question left here on my little list of things. It's more of just about like giving back to community and working within your companies. So does your organization support like service work and doing work outside? I don't say like work outside of work, but like volunteer work within work.
Yes, volunteer work is highly encouraged. It helps you develop your professional skills, professional judgment. You can make contacts through that, bring in business later on down the road. There's all kinds of great reasons why you should get involved in volunteering. So.
So because of the setup of the CRA, we obviously as an organization can't donate money because it would be just taxpayer money being redistributed. It would just be yours.
Yeah.
But we do run a charitable campaign every year, which is funded by donations from employees. Last year it raised 3.7 million. And then we do volunteer days that are connected to that. So we've had a couple years without the volunteer days because of COVID. People haven't wanted large groups of us to show up at their place of work. But that is something, and that's counted as one of our regular working days. We also do blood donation clinics every month at our office. And then we do a community volunteer income tax program, which is just a sign up. This is outside of office hours. And it's free tax preparation to any communities in need. And the goal is to give them better access to benefits and credits to make sure they're kind of getting everything back that they can.
I mean, for Scotiabank, it's a really big organization, and community service is something that's really, really highly encouraged to do. And not only do you, when you are volunteering, you actually, they do allocate some cash to you, which you can donate at your favorite charity. So we do a lot of events for volunteering, especially even around Christmas. We do Staff the Bus for Feet Nova Scotia, lots of different charities that they work, I mean, we work with. So it's really something highly encouraged. Yeah.
So we do a number of different things, but I'm only going to touch on three things. And the first thing is called Impact Day. So one day of the year, instead of showing up to the office to work, you show up to the office to volunteer. And that's Canada wide. So this past year, we had over 7,900 hours that were given to over 100 community organizations in Canada, just volunteering, doing different things. The second thing is what we call our workplace giving campaign. So this year we raised over $1.2 million for different charities and organizations across Canada. And then this one's going to be of particular interest to students is we do offer things like scholarships. So we have something called the Bloom Scholarship Program, which the Mounts Business Department shared. And so, we help out students. It's not just helping out organizations or charities. It's, we go right to the people that are going to come into our firm one day and be a professional for us. And we're saying, we're going to help you out with the cost of school. So those are just three ways that we give back to the community.
That's also very important. So we know it's not just go to the office, do your job and leave. There's also giving back, and there's lots of community work and work within your company. I want to open the floor to some questions from students. I'm sure some of you might have a couple questions, and also anyone online, please feel free to type in the chat box there a question, and we'll pass it along to some panelists. Yeah. Mic over to you.
Good afternoon. Nice to meet you here. And I have two questions for you guys. The first one, what challenges have you faced in leading a team through an analysis project? And the second one is, can you please give an example of how you explain a complex accounting process or finance data to other departments? Thank you.
I do not promise that I'll remember the entire question, but I think I did. So to answer your first question, leading a team, in our environment, that can be really challenging because of remote work. So for the past, ever since I joined Deloitte, which is about 6 months ago, I've worked out of the St. John's office, and I am here in Halifax. There's a large span of ocean between us, as well as a 30-minute time difference, which is not, it's not a big deal, but it makes it hard to lead a team. So that's why I literally, packed up my bags, including my cat, and I went to Newfoundland for 4.5 weeks to lead the team because that's the way that I saw that I was going to be able to best lead my team. So you make decisions and sometimes they're not what you want to do, but they're what's best for the team. And then the second part about explaining accounting principles, the best way, and this is something I've taken ever since I was in university because I was a teaching assistant for 4 years, is think about a way to apply it to real life. For example, debits and credits. It's called a debit card for a reason. It's called a credit card for a reason. Just thinking about ways to span the connection of, okay, so when I go to the grocery store and buy an apple, what is that doing to my bank account balance? And, for example, I was explaining, inventory cutoff to a co-op student up in St. John's a couple weeks ago, and I was trying to explain how it relates to the risk of management override of controls. And I'm just basically, it comes down to bias. So if someone told you you had $100 to spend by the end of the year, is your bias if you didn't have a chance to spend the $100 come the end of the year to maybe put an expense before the end of the year to be like, yeah, I did spend the $100. Now give me the $100. So it's just like it's thinking outside of the box to think about, what day-to-day activity can I relate to this accounting principle? A lot of times it's gonna sound funny. I heard people laughing, but it's gonna click in your brain. It's gonna help you to remember these things. And it's literally when I wrote the CP, like how I was able to apply some accounting concepts was because I thought about them in everyday life.
Yeah, let's have anything to add on to that. That was yeah.
Hi, I'm Mahi. I'm a about to graduate student in diploma in business administration here. So I try to apply to many organizations and bank and everything. So I really want to know what qualities are you looking for a new graduate in their resume apart from communication or volunteer. Like I know I have a good communication skill, but like communicate to other people and talk to other people, but at the same time I don't have a lot of volunteer experience here just because of my situations. So I also want to pursue a career in accounting, but I just want to know what are the other qualities or what are you really looking for in a resume of a new graduate. Thank you.
I was involved in the hiring when I worked with Deloitte and MNP. They hired a lot more than the firm I'm at now. One of the things that we did look at, because there's so many resumes coming in, is we would ask for your transcript for your marks and your accounting courses. Because one of the things is, if you are successful going through university, you're probably more apt to be successful going through the program. And when you have 100 resumes you have to look through, you have to weed them out somehow. So one of the things we would look at would be the accounting marks. Is one of the things that we would look at for important. I mean, if you had a lot of relevant experience in the accounting field, even if you volunteered accounting wise, things like that, that was one of the things that we would look at. So
So for us, we look at obviously any work experience that can be highlighted. Any extra language skills are really beneficial. And then the other part of our process is we do logic testing, which it seems scarier than it is. I actually think they're kind of fun. They're like little puzzles that you do and you're timed, but we do a lot of that to kind of see critical thinking in a very small sense.
Yeah, I mean, for us in the financial industry, I would say, especially right now, I know that most financial industry are actively hiring for new staff. And I mean, I know most of them are actually short-staffed. And I think that's accurate. So I would say, certainly, if you are a new graduate, like we said, all of the other skills they're gonna come in place. If you probably don't have a CPA or any other certificate right now, again, if even the way you build the resume, I'm not saying I haven't seen it or anything, but something that will spot the eye of a recruiter is something that they're looking for. Because even juggling through all of those resumes, putting if you have any like volunteer experience, any experience, even putting if you have a diploma, like the courses that you might did stand out for you, that's something that's gonna attract the recruiter's eyes. And going through the interview process, just being prepared, having yours, something that kind of caught me off guard when I was in my interview process, where they want to know what we call like a 30, 60, 90 plan. So that means it's in your first 30 days, what are you planning to do? 60 days and up to 90 days. So they want to see that you are somebody who's motivated. It's not just like you're looking to get that experience and move up, but you actually have worked towards where you want to be. So certainly start working on that because sometimes if you apply, you're not sure when they're gonna call you, and sometimes they will call you right with an interview, which I find often being done. So certainly work on where you want to be, have that plan in place, and show the recruiter that it's something that you have been working on and you're really looking to get there. Yeah.
I'd say reach out. find someone that works at the company. Maybe they're a Mount grad. Maybe there's someone who knows a professor that, you've taken a course with. Reach out and ask them if they're free to have coffee for, 30 minutes. Because, we see so many resumes, and I've done recruiting now for a number of years in different positions. And when I look at our resume, you are just a name on a piece of paper. There's nothing other than what's on your resume to differentiate yourself. But for example, you asking the question here today, I might not remember your name when you go to leave, but if you reach out and say, hey, let's sit down and have coffee for 30 minutes, and then your resume flies across my desk, I'm going to remember your face and I'm going to connect that to your name and be like, this is someone we have to talk to. So just putting yourself out there, it doesn't have to be anything elaborate, and it doesn't have to be, you don't have to go straight to partners. You can go all the way to, even if there's someone that's in one of your classes that's a co-op student at a place that you want to work, ask them if their manager will sit down with you for coffee for 5 minutes and invite your friend to come with them. That's just something super simple you can do to get your foot in the door and start those conversations. And you also learn a lot from talking with the different people working in different industries.
On our last panel, they mentioned a couple times about maybe like cold calling, cold emailing. Is that recommended within finance and accounting?
Yes, but don't do it during the month of April. I'm not going to lie to you. I worked at a small accounting firm, and on April 30th, somebody walked in with their resume, and the resume was just thrown in the garbage on April 30th. So, no, I think you can reach out. Just obviously your timing. January, February, March, April is very busy in accounting firms, so I wouldn't recommend that. But maybe June, July, uh, you know, send an email, say I'd like to talk to you. Especially, it's nice that the Mount gives you these kinds of opportunities to meet with people and meet face to face and make connections and follow up. Because I talk to students over the, I mean, I've helped students with their resumes, even like they never ever came and worked with me, but I was a co-op student one time before. I was a CPA student before. I know what it's like. Um, so, if you make that connection, maybe I don't have a job, but my husband's a CPA. His firm might have a job. Like, it's all connections. Halifax is very small. That's why you have to be nice to everybody because they all remember you. So, so I just, I would advise that, but just pick your time, right?
I just want to echo what Abby said about reaching out to people in regards, like, just, I mean, having that cold calling. It doesn't have to be like somebody in management. If you even know somebody who's working in that position, like for us, we do have options where employees are able to refer other stuff, and that kind of brings your resume like up on the desk for the recruiters. So anybody that you can connect with, I know. I mean, I'm willing to respond. I don't know. I'm not sure about the others, but then again, do not feel discouraged if you're reaching out to two people and maybe not responding. Move on and reach out to another person. They might be busy, there might be things going on, but certainly actively reach out to people, know about the role, even. That's going to help you.
So I spoke on this accounting panel at the same time last year, and I was working at a different company at the time. Myself and one of the other panelists got chatting after, and we were messaging on LinkedIn, and she's actually how I got my current job. So I would say don't feel bad about messaging people, reach out most of the time. They can help point you in a direction at least. So that's where I ended up.
So we love networking. I know a lot of our students are international students here at the Mount. Is there, sorry, I said question hour, but here I am. How do your companies support the international sort of like transition and hiring? If you know of that.
I can maybe speak to that. I mean, just being an international student myself, when I got here, Scotiabank was kind of wasn't my first job, but it was really in the early stages when I got here. And just coming from that background, things work completely different to where I come from, any country. So I would say they kind of work with you. Just know that if you are an international student, programs that will make things, break down things for you to easier understand, especially going into training, they really put an emphasis and understand that it's not like things, like start from zero, explaining things all the way through. So it's something that really helps, and even getting to connect with other international people that came, sharing your challenges and how to overcome that. So it's something that really helps, especially coming from like in an international background.
Hi. I'm just wondering because each of you have like really tight deadlines. How do you manage like a work-life balance in each of your roles?
I try to delegate as much as I can at the office. That's the only way I can survive. No. Um, the one thing about public practice and when you move up the scale is you might go and I might come into work today thinking I'm going to do three things and not get to any of those three things till next week because my priorities are constantly changing. So, I mean, I do try to delegate as much as I can so I can have people working for me and we're all working towards the same deadline. I mean, I have three children and my husband's in the same profession. So, you want to talk to somebody work-life balance, you can talk to me after. But, and you have to be prepared and communication and just, you know, everybody knows April 30th is their tax deadline. So we just need to communicate, on a timely basis to make sure that the information is in on a timely basis so we can all meet the deadline. It's communication and delegation is how I roll.
Mine is probably a little bit more relaxed than when I was in public accounting. Overall, our team kind of works on separate things. So I work for the Atlantic Regional Office. So there's four of us in Nova Scotia, three in Newfoundland. One is in Quebec, but she works with us still. We're a little spread out. So everyone also is at different levels. So we do work on different things, but our team is really good. If we need something done specifically at one area, everyone kind of bands together to help. And we do have a little bit more flexibility to do that and leave certain projects until we're ready to move on to it.
For me, that's a really good question because I learned that the hard way because you can control what you can only control, right? So sometimes you just want to, especially when you reaching out to, I mean, when you're in close contact with your customers, some of them just want things done that day, and you have like a ton of people that want their deals closer that day just because of the urgency. But something that I could advise is just knowing your priorities. My company is really flexible to give me, I kind of manage my own agenda. So it's all about you because you have that time to, you have a certain time to go home. If you want, you can still stay, but again, if you're not organizing yourself to know your priorities, you're going to end up in that trap where you're just working overtime because you want to get things done that same day. But just understanding that it has to have an end. You have to know how you can control your things. And that comes by doing it. Yeah. But certainly do not feel like it's going to be the end of the day, right? Because most of the time you find yourself in that ro- beat of things never ending, but working on your priorities.
So public accounting is fun, in the sense that how my role works is for 3 months of the years I work 3 months of the year I work 50 hours a week, and then the rest of the year I work 40. So for those 3 months of the year, I really need to choose what's my top priorities in my personal life, and then block out the time to say, no matter what happens at 9 p.m., I'm shutting my laptop because at the end of the day, nothing's going to blow up. No one's going to die if financial statements aren't ready the next morning. But what is going to end up suffering is your mental well being if you don't go to bed at the time that you have to go to bed so that you get the right amount of sleep. And so it's choosing what's your priority and what's the most important thing in your life and knowing that, you're only going to work, busy season hours for 3 months of the year. And then the rest of the year, you're going to go back to a normal schedule. Um, and then choosing like another thing I do is like flexibility. We have flex hours. So, if I have a doctor's appointment smack dab in the middle of the day, I might work 9 to 12 and then I don't go back to work till 3 and then I work till later in the evening. So you can fit in your personal life still, like with the hours that you work by choosing like when you work, where you work too. So I work from home mostly, but I do go into the office. But I know if I have a tight deadline, the office is not the place for me to be because I will socialize the whole day, get nothing done, and then go home and be like, well, I guess I'm staying up tonight to do it. So it's learning about yourself learning what your priorities are, and then figuring out how those two things fit in with your job. And it's not going to happen right away. This is my fourth busy season, and it's probably the first year where I felt like I've had everything under control and I'm able to, have my priorities actually be priorities and not feel overwhelmed. And so, ask people, if you're overwhelmed in your job and you're like, I can't figure out how to have work-life balance, ask someone else how they do it. Especially there's some people, they look like they have it all together. They come into the office looking all nice, and you're like, I just barely got here this morning. How are you all dolled up nicely? Like, you look like you have all your stuff together and everything's going well. Just ask. Ask for help if you do feel overwhelmed and you don't know how to do it. It's what I did last year. I got to the point where I was like, I don't understand how I can do everything all at once. And it made me really look at my priorities and say, you know what? Watching TV on Friday night, that's a priority. Um, is watching TV every single night of the week after work a priority? Maybe not. So it's just taking a look at things and then having someone able to guide you through it that's been there before.
One of the good things about public practice is the flexibility. You can work, I mean, it's a curse and a blessing at the same time, right? I mean, I can work all weekend if I wanted to. I can work tonight, but I have 3 children, highly involved in sports. I don't miss a sports game. I don't miss a hockey game. I don't miss a rugby game. I go to all that, but it's because I'm able to leave work at 3 o'clock, go to the game, and then I can pick up that evening and finish what I need to finish for that day. So that's one of the big selling points I find with public practice. Anyway, sometimes you're able to work independently. Sometimes you have to work with a team because you're working on a job. But again, if you have clear communication and you set your priorities and you have clear expectations, and there's no reason why you can't. So you can work around things. That's one of the big things I like about public practice. And I've been in it for over 25 years with my husband and 3 children. So it's definitely, doable.
Anybody else have a question? No? I'll check online, see if there's anything coming through. Anyone online? Do we have any questions for our panelists today? Not really looking as so. Oh, one just came in. How do you handle pressure?
You have to be prepared for pressure. I mean, you make that comment, nobody's going to die if a tax return doesn't get filed tomorrow. There's going to be a filing penalty and your boss might not be happy. You might offer to pay for it yourself, but pressure is what, at the end of the day, you have to realize you can only do so much. So you just have to make sure you make the right decisions that's best for everybody involved and hopefully get the job done on a timely basis. I mean, I find in today's society, people put a lot more pressure on themselves than they ever have. Like students coming through the door, they think they should know all this stuff. There's a reason why there's a process here. You're learning, right? So just to realize, I think my boss says, we're not in an emergency room. Nobody's going to die. So I mean, I would not want. I think if you're talking to a panel of doctors up here, that's a totally different question, right? But I think the thing is, again, it's time management and being prepared and knowing what's coming down the line. And in a firm, there is deadlines with tax, with CRA. There's deadlines with banks. So if you know the deadlines and you have a clear path, and if you're not going to meet the deadline, then being able to communicate with the client, the bank, expectations of this is, we have, there's a bump in the road. We're not going to meet that deadline. This is what we need to do. It's all about just being prepared, and time management and communication is key.
I would say communicate with whoever your manager, team leader is, because 9 times out of 10, they can either give you more resources to help you get it done within the time, or they will turn around and be like, yep, the deadline's not reasonable. We're going to tell the client that it's going to be another week. But I've never really had an issue once I've communicated any sort of problem to a manager or a team leader, as long as you're on top of it and it's not 2 minutes before it's supposed to be done. I find they're always very willing to help, and it's more stress and pressure that I've put on myself as opposed to actually imposed by them.
Yeah, I would say working under pressure, I work in a really fast-paced environment, and pressure. It's actually, I know that that's always one of the questions that comes in an interview, because you're always gonna feel that you're under pressure, and sometimes you're gonna feel that there's not enough hours in a day, but there's actually enough hours in a day. That's why they set that time. But the main thing that I find that really help me or help others, it's just staying calm, right? If I get pressured, 3 hours are going to pass without me even accomplishing anything and just top of pressure. So if you're calm and just trying to do one thing at a time, you'll find yourself much more productive than just trying to juggle everything at once, which you end up with no results. But yeah, stay calm and just make sure that you're taking it a step at a time. Yeah.
My number one thing is learn how you act under pressure. Learn what your response is, and then decide if that's something that you think is going to work for you or if it's not going to work for you. And for 10 years, I've done that. I worked as a lifeguard. I still am a lifeguard right now. And in that job, it is life or death, but in accounting, it's not. And so you have to think about how do I act under pressure? How can I prevent that from happening? And then what's my response to when I'm really feeling it coming down? So, like, something I do is the first of the month, and I did this on March 1st. I open up my calendar and I put every single thing that's personal in that calendar. No one else can see it but you. But you have it blocked in, you're able to look at it and be like, okay, so these are the doctor's appointments I have. These are the commitments I have. So being here today went in my calendar. And then you can say, look at it and say, okay, is there too much here? Am I trying to do too much all at once? Do I need to scale back? Or am I not giving myself enough time to do the things that need to be done? And then just managing your time from there and saying, if you're sitting at your desk, and I get caught doing this a lot because I'm working at home, I'll be like, there's a pile of laundry behind me that has been there for 2 weeks. It needs to go in the washing machine. Get up, take the 5 minutes, address that. If it's something that's going to take less than 5 minutes and it's going to clear your head, take those 5 minutes, do the task, and then go back to what you're working on, because it's just going to help to clear up your brain. And if it's something that's longer than 5 minutes, I have a list on my phone, and it's tasks that take longer than 10 minutes. It's very long, but you write it down, because then you have a reminder to look back. Let's say you have a free afternoon, you're like, well, I'm bored, I have nothing to do. Well, there's a bunch of tasks that were super important maybe 3 days ago while you were working that you could do now. And it's just trying to keep your brain in the mindset of this is what I'm working on right now, and trying to clear out everything else to just eliminate some of the pressure. 'Cause some of the pressure we put on ourselves, you don't have to have that pressure. It's not a like, alarming priority. It's just something your brain in that moment thinks this is my top priority right now.
I love lists. That's what I live by. So I find for myself, my priorities change all the time. But when I'm at the office, I have this little notepad and I write down the three things I'd like to do today. If it's not done today, hopefully by the end of the week. And I love crossing things off that list, man. Makes me feel really good. I don't know, but people are like that, it works wonders for me. So just a basic thing is a list, and that priority might change, and it might be I had 10 things to do, but these are the two, even two things I need to get done this week, and you get cross off it. I find it helps.
I do have one last question before we run out of time very quickly. I just have someone here saying that they're an international student in their third year looking for a summer accounting job. What is the best way that they could accomplish this?
A summer's meaning starting when, like May?
To find a job that relates to accounting this summer, I'm going to say May,
Yeah.
end of April, May.
Well, get your resumes out now. Don't send it in April if you're looking for a public accounting firm. But you can always send your resume out and follow up with a phone call. I think right now, if anybody's hiring any accounting students in May, that there probably decisions have already been made. I would have suggested maybe looking in the fall or something like that. So, because we have one starting in May. So,
I would also keep an eye on the job postings, because I know everyone seems to be a little short on people, but we have like a constant stream of stuff coming up for summer and co-op students. So we have like the CRA website. You can set it up to send you notifications when there's new job postings. You can look on the student portal. There's some on the Mount one. So just keep an eye on it. There likely are still a lot coming out from us.
Perfect.
I might not specifically talk about accounting, but any summer position right now, I'll say it's certainly the best timing to send in your resumes, just because most of the companies are like right now recruiting, not if not already done, but there's still some positions open. So I would say send in your resumes as early as possible. And again, be active on LinkedIn. I know that recruiters tend to reach out to people that way, and just go on website companies that you're interested in and send in your resume.
Yeah, I'd echo, like, if there's a place you really want to work at and you have your heart set on working at that place, reach out to someone that works there. And don't reach out a week from now. Reach out like right now to them and say, hey, I need, I'm looking for a job that starts now, like at this time. Do you have any available? LinkedIn is a great resource. LinkedIn is how I found my current role. And so apply on LinkedIn, see what companies are hiring because companies might be hiring full-time positions that they're having trouble filling that they could easily turn into a summer position because there's government funding out there for summer positions and it could help them out a lot. So even if you see something that's full-time, find someone that works at the company, reach out and be like, hey, do you have the need for a summer co-op student or like a summer intern? And like for Deloitte specifically, look on our website, our job postings are there. We also post jobs on LinkedIn. They're both great places to find jobs, but as a lot of people that work in public accounting will say to you, we hire early. And I mean early, like when I graduated university, I had my full-time job in September of my 4th year of university. So if you want to join the public accounting world, get your resumes out there and get them out early.
Amazing. Lots of networking, putting yourself out there. Good stuff. Amazing. Well, thank you very much. I'd like to thank all the panelists for being here today, for taking the time out of their day to join us. If you guys want to help me in thanking them,